Hello, everyone, and welcome into the fantasy football universe. I am your host, Aaron St. Dennis. Follow me everywhere at FF Mad Scientist, riding solo again today, so you will have to humor me. No help here, and I'm losing my voice, so I have 8 games to get through in our NFC home games preview. I'm hoping I can make it through all 8 of them. You have to give me a brief second here and there, as I will be grabbing a drink. My voice is almost completely shot. Took my son to a baseball game last night, and between, kind of the chilly weather at night and the yelling and screaming for our team, it has left me with a faded voice. But I am here. We're going to get through it. I have it as week 1. I'm already off to a great start. It is listed as week 1. This is, in fact, week 2, if I could read. Week 2, NFL, fantasy football, NFC home game previews and predictions. Hey, Jamie, how's it going, man? I hope you're feeling better than I am. I'm just hoping to make it through this one. I guess we are going to start off with the New Orleans Saints at Dallas Cowboys. I think I've said this before. I'm a Saints fan. Kind of Saints, kind of Lions. Lions are close by. I thought this team was going to be freaking awful. So it remains to be seen. I guess we're going to learn a lot about the Saints this week. Are they actually good and I was wrong? Or more likely, was I right and the Carolina Panthers are epically bad? We'll get into this one. We've got the quarterbacks here are Derek Carr versus Dak Prescott. It is the 18th best matchup for Carr, 22nd best matchup for Prescott. Dak, I think, is the probably a low-end QB1 for me here. Definitely still firing him up. Derek Carr, I am willing to fire up in a super flex league as a high-end QB2. I think he comes back down. This Dallas defense is notably better than Carolina last week. Single QB league, I don't think I'm firing up Carr. I guess there's situations where you're desperate. Like I know if you had Trevor Lawrence as your starting QB, you don't like the matchup there with Cleveland. If you drafted Aaron Rodgers as your starting QB, he's got a brutal matchup with Tennessee. I might play Carr over Purdy. That's a tough one for me. I like Purdy better. I'm not a fan of the matchup with the Minnesota secondary. They look like they could be onto something good there. But Carr is definitely playable in Superflex. As far as the running backs go, we've got Alvin Kamara. Jamal Williams burst back onto the scene, doing a little something there, scoring his first touchdown since he led the league in touchdowns 2 years ago. Dallas has Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle. They do have Dalvin Cook, don't they? He's not listed on the roster here. No difference. Let's see. For the Saints, it's the 15th best matchup, so middle of the pack. Cowboys, it is the worst matchup. Not a great run defense to face in New Orleans. I am avoiding Zeke pretty much everywhere. I don't think I have much Dowdle. I guess Zeke is maybe a desperation flex if you really have to, but I don't see him anywhere in any of my starting lineups outside of a desperation flex. Alvin Kamara, I have at 13. He is a high-end 2, low-end 1, obviously. Jamal Williams, I am not touching. The wide receivers here, we've got Olave for the Saints, my guy Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry, nothing really else of note. On Dallas, we have CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert. I should add, actually, Kevontae Turpin's an interesting one. If you're in a league like Scott Fishbowl, where they reward returners, especially Scott Fishbowl, where they really reward return yards, Kevontae Turpin's useful. He's a good kick returner. Most leagues, he's useless. The matchups here, we have 20th best matchup for Dallas, 24th best for Olave. So both medium to low matchups. Not really anything I want to impact. When I'd say these matchups here, unless it's a top, I think on my list is 5 or 6. If it's a top 5 matchup or a bottom 5 matchup, it really impacts it. Other than that, I'm not really looking to impact it a whole lot, especially early on in the season when, one game can really slant things here or skew things. CeeDee Lamb, obviously you are starting. He is my wide receiver 1 this week. I will have 2 Saints start worthy here. The highest for me is Chris Olave at Chris Olave, they're the lower than I would have expected. Olave at 27. Shaheed at 37. I think I'm starting both of them as a wide receiver 3. I think Olave has wide receiver 2 upside. He's a sneaky play there. I love me some Shaheed, especially in Scott Fishbowl. Return yards. I don't know if he really returned much. He had one kick for 33 yards in week 1. So that was probably a low workload for him, but he has 1,000-yard potential in the season and adds in a whole bunch in the kicking game or return game. I like Shaheed there. Obviously, I'm going Lamb over Olave. I don't think anyone was surprised by that. Tight ends here. The Saints had 3 of the top 10 tight ends in week 1. Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill. They have the 5th best matchup, so it's a good spot. I believe in my sit-start category, Juwan Johnson is the guy I'm looking to stream. I have him. I don't think I have him in the top 12. I have him just outside. Actually, Taysom Hill's my highest. He's at 11, but that's the Taysom Hill effect. I have Johnson actually at 16. I have Moreau at 22. The Dallas side of the ball is interesting. Jake Ferguson, he gets the 2nd worst matchup, so it's really bad. You also have to add in, I'm not sure exactly how healthy he is, so that scares me. I don't currently have him in my rankings, or did I just move him down? Oh, I did. I moved him right down. Him and Schoonmaker, Luke Schoonmaker, the backup, are 31 and 32 on here. If Ferguson starts, he's going to move up into starter range, probably borderline low-end tight end 1, so 12, 13, 14 range. If Ferguson doesn't play, Schoonmaker's going to move up, but it's going to be more in the range of tight end 15 to 18. So he'll be a streaming option if you need one, but this isn't a great matchup. I don't have a whole lot of faith in him, so probably looking to get away from Schoonmaker. I will fire up Ferguson, though, if I have the opportunity. Next up on the agenda, rematch of the 2nd round of the playoffs last year, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Detroit Lions. Start with the quarterbacks here. We've got Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. Who would have thought a couple years ago that this would turn out to be 2 really solid fantasy quarterbacks? Goff gets the 3rd best matchup here, and looking for Baker. Baker gets the 13th best. So great matchup for Goff, average matchup for Baker. I like both of them here. I think they're both high-end QB2s. Baker I've got at 13. Goff I actually have up to 10, so I'm pretty high on both of them. You are starting both of them, obviously, in Superflex. You're probably starting both of them in 1 QB unless you've somehow managed to stack a much better quarterback. But like I said, Goff's at 10 for me, so there aren't many quarterbacks above him in the rankings. The running backs are interesting here. For the Tampa side, we have Rachaad White. Gave up a lot on the ground to Bucky Irving. He still had all the pass downs worked. 6th worst matchup for the Bucs. The Detroit side of the ball, 10th best matchup for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, still kind of an even split here. I know. So it's 11 rush attempts for Gibbs, 4 receptions. Montgomery got more. He got 17 rush attempts. So all the passing work went to Gibbs. It was about a 60-40 split for Montgomery. That's why I was all over Montgomery. I think he was a great value. He's clearly the rushing downs back. Having said that, my highest in this one, it's going to be Gibbs, White, Montgomery, Irving. I think Irving has some David Montgomery potential here where he's just going to be the boring rushing downs back. I think he might get some of the goal line work. It's enough to be a problem. Both these starters were really highly drafted, and their backups or their 1B is enough to be a problem. I got Gibbs at 10, Montgomery at 17, Rachaad White at 23, and it's probably going to be a ways down for Bucky Irving. He's in the 40s, but like I said, I'm firing up Gibbs as a low-end one. I think I feel comfortable with all 3 of Gibbs, Montgomery, and White as my RB2. I don't know. I know I have Gibbs ranked as an RB1. I think it's, there aren't really any bell cows here. I don't really want him as my one. Bucky Irving, it's a desperation stream. I think he's more of a stash than anything. Moving on to the wide receivers. Tampa, we've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan, who I really liked. He looked, average, but he did get a touchdown in week 1. They also have Trey Palmer, but I think McMillan's the guy for the third, or, the up-and-comer there. Second best matchup for the Bucs. Lions side of the ball, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the other guy I've been on all offseason, Jameson Williams. This is the worst matchup for opposing receivers. I think I have St. Brown the highest. I'm sure I have St. Brown the highest despite the matchup. I have him at 4. Then it's going to be Mike Evans at 10. Chris Godwin at 18. Jameson Williams cracks the 20s for me. He's at 21. I'm going to move him down at some point. That scares me. He's kind of a scary deep threat option here where I don't necessarily know if I love the matchup here. And I think he's going to have, just based on the role he plays, some boom or bust weeks here. You can start him as a wide receiver 3, but just acknowledge he's going to have some ups and downs. Jalen McMillan, desperation flex. If you got to stream him, you can. I think I've got him way down. He's outside top 40 for me. He's at 52. So it's not great, but I'm sure there's rosters in, my 100 leagues that I'll be starting him. And I don't hate it. I don't look at him and go, oh, I've got to start him. I've got one lineup where I was really desperate. I lost like 4 players in week 1. And one of my flexes is going to be Devon Vele. And I'm like, oh, I don't love it. I feel better if I have McMillan as my flex there. It's not something I hate. It's not something I'm actively looking to target. I don't want it in a lot of leagues, but it is what it is. Tight ends here, we have the most frustrating tight end in football, Cade Otton, 13th best matchup. He's always on the field. He just never does anything with it. Sam Laporta, 19th best matchup. I am sure Laporta is ranked considerably higher. Let me switch tabs here. Sam Laporta is my 1. Cade Otton is down at 18. He is a desperation stream, I guess, if you need to. I'm not really looking to do it there. Sam Laporta is a must start at all costs. I've actually tried to trade Sam Laporta in a couple of dynasty leagues, despite the fact that he's my number 1 this week. I'm really jumping on the Brock Bowers train, and I've tried to sell high on Laporta here and go Laporta for Brock Bowers and an additional piece or an additional pick. We'll see how that pans out, but I'm certainly still all in on Sam Laporta. I just think Brock Bowers is younger and is going to have some real upside here. We've seen in week 1. He's a player right off the bat. All right, next game we've got Indianapolis Colts at Green Bay Packers. The quarterbacks, the lowest pass volume or lowest pass attempts of week 1 goes to Anthony Richardson for the Colts against Malik Willis for the Packers, who's stepping in for the injured Jordan Love. 8th best matchup for Willis, 10th best matchup for Richardson, so a plus matchup for both. Richardson's obviously a must start. I have him as QB4. Malik Willis, I have his QB 27. He's unstartable, even in Superflex, unless you're desperate. He's a stash for me and see how it pans out. He's nowhere on the single QB radar. Superflex, stash him and see if anything hits here, but I am not looking to get him in my lineup. I have him in one Superflex lineup where I had J.J. McCarthy and I had Jordan Love. And I have absolutely no option. It was Willis on the waiver wire, and I am starting him because he was either him or a tight end in my super flex spot. And I honestly considered putting in, some of the tight ends and wide receiver 4s over Malik Willis. So that's where I'm at with him. Running backs, we've got Jonathan Taylor, who gets the best matchup for a fantasy running back. And the Green Bay Packers have Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd maybe if he plays. Jacobs gets the 6th best matchup. These guys are going to be high in the rankings for me. Taylor's 4. Josh Jacobs is only at 14, but he's going to move up, I think. I know there's a questionable tag on him, but I think he's good to go, and he's going to move up. I don't have anyone else really ranked in this one. Marshawn Lloyd is a hold for me or a stash, in dynasty formats. He's the ultimate handcuff, but aside from being, the handcuff in the event of a Jacobs injury, he doesn't hold much value for me. Wide receivers, we have Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs if he's healthy, Alec Pierce. They get the 17th best matchup for fantasy. The Packers get the 4th best. That's Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. This one's a tough one. Pittman's going to be the highest ranked for me, and I don't really have any of them ranked that high. Pittman's my highest at 25. He is a high-end 3, low-end wide receiver 2. Everyone else, I think I'm going to put the Packers guys, Reed, Watson, Dobbs, all in the 3 wide receiver 3 category, with Reed being my highest. And then I'm not looking to really play any of the Colts besides Mitchell, Mitchell, Downs, Pierce as anything more than a dart throw or a desperation flex, because we simply don't know how it's going to pan out. I think they're all going to have weeks of usefulness. But back to the Packers, they're the most important part here. They're all low-end wide receivers for me, wide receiver 3s for me here. Jaden Reed, I think I like the most, but with Malik Willis at quarterback, I'm not looking to really start any of these guys. I know you have to, but in some spots you're going to have to, but I'm fine starting Reed, I guess, but I don't know. These guys are kind of inconsistent and up and down because there's so many of them in a good week. This week's not great. I don't want anything to do with a Malik Willis-led offense. Pittman worries me this week with Alexander. That I do believe, I agree with. I don't know if Alexander travels with him. The problem, or the benefit for Pittman is last week showed that whether it's Pierce, Downs, Mitchell, they do have some other pass catchers to play here, or that the defense is going to have to play up. So they can't just flat out, double and triple team Pittman. So I think that helps Pittman overall avoid being just double teamed blatantly. So that is why I'm still comfortable starting him as a high end 3, low end 2. But like I said, there's not really anyone in this matchup that I want to start as higher than my wide receiver 3. It's really risky. On to the tight ends. Kylan Granson gets the 12th best matchup. On the Packers, it is Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, health depending. 21st best matchup, so not a great matchup. Not really interested in any of these tight ends. My highest one is a Packer, so I have Musgrave at 26, Kraft at 28, waiting to see who's healthy and who's not. I don't think I have Kylan Granson anywhere near here. He's down at 41. I'm not looking to start any of these tight ends. Wasn't really looking to start a Packers tight end. I like Musgrave. Wasn't really looking to start one anyways. But with Malik Willis at quarterback, I am just, pretty much all out on this offense. With the exception of Josh Jacobs. I think Jacobs is going to be leaned on and have just a shit ton of volume. All right. Let's go to our next game. San Francisco 49ers at Minnesota Vikings. We start with Brock Purdy versus Sam Darnold. 12th best matchup for Darnold. Excuse me. Worst matchup for Brock Purdy. Take that for what it's worth. 1 week sample size. New York Giants were their opponent. Not really. I don't think the Vikings are going to be the worst matchup for quarterbacks. I don't think they're a good matchup for quarterbacks. Having said that, I think I still have Purdy at 14. And Sam Darnold is way out. He's at 26. Darnold is a start him if you have to in Superflex. Other than that, he's not on my radar. Brock Purdy is likely going to be in your lineup unless you have a much, much better option, which is probably not likely at this point with how inconsistent quarterback's been so far. Or how awful it's been, I guess. Running backs, we have Christian McCaffrey, who is likely to not play this one, which brings us back to the Jordan Mason effect here. He has the 4th worst matchup against Aaron Jones on the Vikings, who is the 19th best matchup. I don't know if I have this one ranked or adjusted just yet. I do, okay. So I have CMC out of my rankings. I think at this point I've just assumed he's done. Aaron Jones is my highest ranked. He is at running back 19. Jordan Mason I have low. I think I took McCaffrey out, but I didn't bump Mason up. Did I bump Mason up? I can't find Jordan Mason here. Oh, I did. Never mind. I accounted for it. I have Jordan Mason at RB11. So there we go. Excuse me, guys. Like I said, whatever 49er starts at running back in this game, it's they're going to be an RB1. So I'm comfortable starting Mason, obviously CMC if he does play, but he won't. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a high-end to mid-range, RB2 at worst, and that's all I'm looking to start there. Ty Chandler's not really on my radar. I'm sure there's situations where teams are absolutely desperate for a flex, and they can, but I don't love it. The wide receivers here, we've got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. on the 49ers, 16th best matchup. The Vikings have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, who came out of nowhere to kind of play the TJ Hawkinson role, the coaching staff said, which is interesting. 10th best matchup there. JJ is going to be my highest ranked when I flip over here. I can pretty much guarantee that. JJ checks in for me all the way down at 12, a whopping 12. Debo checks in at 13. Ayuk at 17. Ayuk worries me quite a bit. Looked out of sorts. Team, he even said in between the weeks here that he didn't feel up to game speed. And this is what I hate about the holdouts. Even if they're here for week one, they've missed a ton of practice. It even looked to affect CeeDee Lamb. So that's definitely a thing. Jordan Addison I have as basically unplayable. He's down in the 50s for me. So I am not looking to start him anywhere. On to the tight ends, one of my favorites, George Kittle for the Niners, 22nd best matchup. Minnesota, it's the 5th worst matchup for their tight ends. Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt. Is it Johnny Munt? It is Johnny Munt. I'm surprised I remembered that. Not a great matchup either way. Kittle is going to check in for me in the top 5, I think. Let me check. Kittle is at 4. Vikings tight end, we scroll all the way down to... still scrolling. Josh Oliver at 35. That's not great. So, obviously, you are firing up Kittle, who could definitely see an increased role if Brandon Ayuk is not up to speed here. But, you're not really considering anyone on the Vikings. Next game on the agenda. Next, we have the New York Giants at Washington Commanders. Sorry, guys. Let me find this one here. All right. Quarterback Daniel Jones. Yay. Gets the 2nd best matchup because Washington's defense looks terrible. Jaden Daniels gets the 15th best matchup because, the Giants look terrible. So, I assume Daniels is high up for me. He is. He is my QB5 because the Giants are freaking awful. Daniel Jones is QB17, and I know that doesn't sound like much, but given how Daniel Jones has played, that's sky high. He's 1 below Burrow. Tells you how juicy this matchup is. So you are firing up Daniels pretty much unless you own a top 4 quarterback. And even then, I have him above Mahomes this week. I have him behind Allen, Hurts, Lamar, and A-Rich. Then it's Jaden Daniels. And Daniel Jones, I'm plenty comfortable playing as my QB2. I don't expect the world from hope he chips in some rushing yards. Single QB league, I probably don't want to go to him. I'm sure there are leagues and managers out there that are absolutely desperate. And if you have to, start Daniel Jones. Never thought I'd say those words. The running backs here, the Giants have Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy Jr., Eric Gray. It is the... Where the hell are the Giants on my graphic? It is the 12th best matchup for the Giants, 11th best matchup for the Commanders. Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler on that side. Brian Robinson should be my highest ranked considerably, and if he's not, I'm going to change it. He is. He's at 21 for me. Turns out I was wrong on this one. I'll take the hit here. Austin Eckler is not a thing. This was the Brian Robinson show. I am fine with Robinson as an RB2. My next highest after this is going to be Devin Singletary at 28. He was also someone who got more of the role or more workload than I thought. Tyrone Tracy didn't do much. We have Austin Eckler down in the 30s. I don't want to start him unless I'm absolutely desperate. And I don't even think I have anyone else here, Tracy or Gray. I have Gray and Tracy both in the low 60s. So that's where I'm at with that. Not looking to fire up either of them. But Singletary and B-Rob are both good RB2s here, I think. They're boring, but who cares? Sometimes that's what you need, just that consistent guy in your lineup. They can't all be boom or bust with high upside. You'll take the W on Eckler? Yep, I do believe you said that. I was wrong. I just said at very least he'd factor into the passing game. At one point I looked up, and before the game was out of hand, it was like 1 carry for 1 yard, one reception for 2 yards. Yeah, this looks like one. I will admit the loss here. It looks like it is the B-Rob show. I did acquire a couple of shares of them because I love these ambiguous backfields. In hindsight, this is one I wish I had loaded up a little heavier on. Wide receivers, the Giants have Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, who I wanted to mention because he did not do like he had 12 fantasy points last week. He had 12 targets. I know it doesn't sound exciting. He's a decent waiver ad. Any player who has double-digit targets is worth monitoring. 12 targets for Wan'Dale. He only cut 6 of them because, well, Daniel Jones targets, you're going to catch 50% of them. Only turned it into 44 yards, but Wan'Dale has some explosiveness to him. He's shifty. He's a little guy. I get it, but he's got great potential out of the slot, and I'm never ignoring a guy who puts up 12 targets in a single week on any offense. They are worth taking a look at, especially in PPR here. It's the best fantasy matchup for Giants receivers. I said Neighbors, Wan'Dale, Slayton, Hyatt, Smith-Marset. On the Commanders, we have McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, Alameda Zacchaeus, Diami Brown, Noah Brown, a lot of Browns there, and Jamison Crowder. It is the 13th best matchup for them, so favorable matchup for both teams. It is a juicy matchup for your New York players here. I'm sure Neighbors is my highest on both squads here. Excuse me. Neighbors at 16. My next highest is going to be Terry McLaurin. Let me find him here. Terry at 32. Not really interested in starting anybody else. I will stash Luke McCaffrey, especially in Dynasty. He only got 3 targets, caught them all last week. He has some potential here because there's nobody else really to throw the ball to. And like I said, Wan'Dale Robinson, maybe not someone I'm looking to start. You can desperation flex him. He is definitely a worthwhile waiver stash in a deeper league. Like I said, 12 freaking targets. I'm never ignoring 12 targets. I don't care who it is. I don't care what team they're on. The tight ends, Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger for the Giants. They get the third worst matchup for a tight end. On the Commander side, Zach Ertz doing what he does, ruining things for a good young tight end, ruining it for Ben Sinnott. That's what he did in week 1. 14th best matchup for them. Not a great matchup for either of them or anyone in this game. I would say Zach Ertz is my highest ranked tight end. I will double check here. Giants and Commanders. It is Zach Ertz at 19. He is a desperation tight end if you have to, or in 2 tight end. I do have a few of those leagues, actually, but desperation there. Ben Sinnott next at 38. At some point, Sinnott's going to overtake that job, but for now, Sinnott's value is being killed by Zach Ertz. Like I said all offseason, I'll take the W on that one. Theo Johnson I have at 40. He is a guy I loved. I love the talent coming out of college, coming out of Penn State. I am holding him everywhere. Keep in mind, there could be some admitted bias here. He went to the same high school as me. He lived in the same city as me. So it is what it is. Maybe a little homerism here for me. Next up, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers and Carolina Panthers. That is an interesting matchup, to say the least. One sec, guys. I can't find the damn game. Oh, it's a 1 o'clock game. That's why. Justin Herbert for the Chargers. Bryce Young for the Panthers at quarterback. Not pretty. For Herbert, it is. Why can I not find Justin Herbert here? Sorry, well, 21st best matchup for Bryce Young. Well, I look for Justin Herbert. It's the 6th best matchup for Herbert because his Carolina defense was absolutely awful last week. I don't think I have either of them ranked inside the top 20. I have Herbert at exactly 20. Bryce Young I have down at 30. I only have 32 quarterbacks ranked. He is above Will Levis and Gardner Minshew. That is it. That tells you how low I feel about him. I'm holding on to him still in Dynasty because of his draft capital. But, you know, maybe that New Orleans defense was legit. But if he continues it this week, I'm getting ready to cut bait here. This has got Zach Wilson 2.0 written all over it. It does not look good. Herbert, I'm not completely out on. He didn't look great last week. He was average. Actually, he was below average. But I don't know. I don't think the Raiders are a terrible defense. I think the Panthers could be a terrible defense. So Herbert's another one where I'm not going to drop him, but I'm fine with him as my QB2. I don't really want to start him as my QB1 in single QB unless I have to, but I'm starting to sound the panic alarm on both of these guys if they don't do something this week against bad defenses. Running backs. Chargers have J.K. Dobbins, my other loss of the offseason as of now. I thought this was a Gus Edwards backfield. It was definitely a J.K. Dobbins backfield. He was my number one waiver wire claim of the week. Also there, Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskins not playing a role. Second best matchup for J.K. Dobbins. If you check out my sit-start guide for offense and defense, like IDP, there's a lot of Chargers in there. On offense, on defense, I'm starting every Chargers team I can, or every Chargers player I can. Panthers, we've got Hubbard, Sanders, Blackshear. Blackshear is an interesting one if you're in Scott Fishbowl. I added him. Nobody outbid me. If you're in Scott Fishbowl and Blackshear is on your roster, go get him now. He was the number one scorer in week 1 of all players. He put up 204 all-purpose kick return yard, or all-purpose and kick return yards. Other formats that don't include return yards, he's useless. But if you are in a Scott Fishbowl-like league with return yards, Blackshear may be a top 10 player for you. As I said, he's the overall number 1 last week in Scott Fishbowl scoring, which I didn't even know until yesterday. I went in, added him in Scott Fishbowl, or yet the day before, put a claim in on him, put a $0 bid in, got him. So it's amazing. Let's take a look at the matchup for Chubbard and the Panthers. 20th best matchup. Dobbins is going to be my highest. I'm damn sure of that. He's 22 for me. Gus is down at 31. My highest Panther is Chubbard at 39. I don't really want to start any Panther. Dobbins a QB. Dobbins is an RB2 for me. Edwards is a desperation flex at best. I want Dobbins in this matchup, and that's about it. You'll have to give me a second here as I need a drink. And I'm back and trying not to lose my voice. Chargers side for receivers, we have Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston getting the 22nd best matchup. Panthers side of the ball, we have Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Jonathan Mingo getting the 18th best matchup. So not great matchups on either side of the ball here. The Chargers are interesting to me. Ladd McConkey was the 1 last week. Quentin Johnston was number 2 in production. Josh Palmer was number 3. Let's not go overboard here. I liked McConkey did last week. I think if you look at them, they were all within one target of each other. I think that's how it's going to be split. It's going to be 6-7 targets for all 3 of them, sometimes 5. Whoever gets the touchdown is going to be the producer. Palmer, McConkey, QJ, all probably wide receiver 3s for me as my rankings crash here. I don't know who I have the highest here. Deontay, maybe? No, I think I lowered Deontay. Oh, sorry, the Fantasy Pro site just crashed with my rankings on it. Deontay is my... Oh, no, it's not. Ladd McConkey I have at 39. Then I have Deontay at 43, Palmer at 45, QJ at 46. So you've got a lot of guys here that I think are flex-worthy, but not really a whole lot better than that. Thielen, I guess, is a desperation play here. Legette, Mingo, hold maybe for Dynasty. I'm not really interested. I'm still the Quentin Johnston guy on the Chargers. I just like the size and the speed. I know it sounds stupid. I'm having a hard time quitting Quentin Johnston. But for now, I don't really want anything to do with any of these offenses. Deontay Johnson's my favorite of the bunch. Tight ends here, Hayden Hurst for the Chargers. Best matchup for tight ends. Carolina Panthers have Jatavian Sanders, 7th best matchup. I think Hurst might be in the top 12 for me. My God, come on. Sorry, guys. Fantasy Pros is giving me a hard time here trying to load up my rankings, and every time I do it, it crashes on me. All right. Sorry about that. Let's go back. So we're talking Hurst and Sanders here. I actually don't have any of them ranked that high. They're both in the low 20s for me. I would be surprised. I thought Hurst I would have had ranked higher. I might be moving him up here. I think Hurst is a playable tight end too, just because of the favorable matchup. Not a whole lot more. Jatavian Sanders is a dynasty hold or a dynasty stash for me, but not much interest in anything else there. All right, let's move on to the next game, and hopefully we can get things on track here Actually, we do have a question first before we move on to Los Angeles Rams at Arizona Cardinals. Would you rather pick up Luke McCaffrey or Bateman in Scott Fishbowl? Luke McCaffrey, Bateman, I don't think has a whole lot of upside left. I was on that too. I like Bateman as a rookie, and I said, oh, Bateman, it looks like, he could finally be healthy and he could be all right. I am about ready to give up on Bateman. Where's the Baltimore game here? Let me double check that, Jamie. I want to see his exact stat line last week. Rashad Bateman, 2 catches, 5 targets, 53 yards. So not awful. Like, he had more targets. He had more targets than McCaffrey. I don't know. He's never healthy. He doesn't do a whole lot. I'm going McCaffrey here just because I think there's more upside. But I don't particularly love either. One's a case where I like the talent better for Bateman, but Andrews, Zay Flowers in front of him, low pass volume offense. McCaffrey, I like McCaffrey based on the fact that his last name is McCaffrey, and he has almost no one in front of him on the depth chart, but that Washington offense doesn't look great. I think they're both mediocre options. On to the next game here. We have the Rams at the Cardinals. Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, 19th best matchup. I believe Stafford has a good one. Stafford does. This is the best matchup for quarterbacks. Kyler is my QB7. Stafford checking in at QB10, which tells you how juicy this is. I am firing them both up. Having said that, I thought it was going to be like this last week for Stafford against the Lions, and it was a much more low-scoring defensive battle than anyone expected, but the Arizona Cardinals do not have the Detroit Lions defense. Moving on to running back, we have Kyren Williams for the Rams. Ronnie Rivers, Blake Corum, yada, yada, none of them really doing anything. It's just Kyren, 25th best matchup. James Conner for the Cardinals checks in with the 3rd best matchup. Trey Benson's just a stash here. I guess you're stashing Corum too, but it's a long-term stash because Ronnie Rivers seems to be the backup right now because he knows the pass blocking schemes is the way it was described on the broadcast. Nothing surprising there. This one's going to be Kyren Williams and James Conner. Kyren at 7, Conner at 9. I am high on both of them. Pretty good matchup for both of them. You are firing up both of them if you have them. Moving on to the receivers here. Cooper Kupp is once again a must start for the Rams. 9th best matchup. Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson. Also, the two of them kind of had an even target amount. Both of them are desperation flex, I guess, worthy. The Cardinals here, 14th best matchup for Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, who I had some hope for, but never really seems to do anything. I don't know what the hell's wrong here with the Fantasy Pros rankings, so I'm just going to wing it. I have Cooper Kupp as a must-start wide receiver 1 this week. Wide receiver 1, low, really risky, volatile 1 for Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I think you still have to start him, but, he's a rookie. They take a few games to get into it here, so I wouldn't go too high on him, get too crazy. Obviously don't give up on him and drop him right off the bat here, but, rookies, they take time. Close out this game with the tight ends. Colby Parkinson, 18th best matchup, should have a decent role here with no Cooper Kupp, so I'm not necessarily looking to start him, but he is stream worthy if you don't have a better option. Trey McBride, 9th best matchup. He is an absolute must start, so I am starting him just about everywhere. And before we get to our final game here, let's see what Jamie has to say. Will Corum get some work this week with Kyren? No, that's the problem. I was just saying that. I was listening to the broadcast on this one. I think if someone gets the work because Kyren's struggling, I think it's Ronnie Rivers. They were saying that they want to ease Corum along and they have no interest in really giving him significant work right now. It doesn't sound like he's picked up all of the blocking schemes, and they have more faith in Ronnie Rivers to execute the blocking schemes, and that's more of what they're looking for. I guess in theory, if Kyren were to go down with injury and they're not just looking for a well-rounded player and they're looking for pure offense, I guess Corum would get in there with the, the offensive. I get they're all offensive, but the ones where you're the target or you're the ball carrier and then Ronnie Rivers would be in on the blocking down. So no, I think Corum's a stash in Dynasty, but I don't see him having a whole lot of value rest of season. just based on the way the coaching staff is talking about him. Although, things change pretty damn quickly. But all right, we'll close this one off here before I lose my voice. Monday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons, Philadelphia Eagles. Kirk Cousins looked terrible in week 1 with his new team here. Jalen Hurts for the Eagles. The matchups, as I scroll through here on my charts. If you want these matchup charts that I'm scrolling through, head over to fantasyfootballuniverse.com. We have matchups for everything, offense, defense, every damn position you can find. Kirk Cousins, 11th best matchup, 20th best matchup for Jalen Hurts, so it's just kind of in the middle. Jalen Hurts, I think, is my QB2. Fantasy Pros rankings crashed, so I can't see what my rankings are. He's top 3 at worst. Kirk Cousins still looking to fire up as a high-end 2, low-end 1. Think he's going to bounce back. It's the same as I said with Caleb Williams, though. Whether you believe in them or not, new offense, new pieces, take some time to gel. Don't just jump ship when they don't come out and put up 50 points in week 1. Still willing to start Cousins, obviously starting Hurts. Running backs here, we've got Bijan Robinson, who finally appeared to rid himself of Tyler Algier, who was minimal in last week's attack. For Bijan, it is the 21st best matchup. Eagles side of the ball, good God, it was the Barkley show. I'm not even going to mention anyone else, just Barkley. He gets himself the 6th worst matchup. I don't care. These are, I believe Barkley is my RB1 right now with CMC out. Bijan might be my 2 or 3. As I said, the Fantasy Pros rankings app is down, so I don't have time to go in and load up another screen and hold up the show, so I'm going to wing it. Both of them are top 5. You're starting both. I don't really want anyone else. Algier, Gainwell, Shipley, nothing else here to see. Moving on, wide receiver Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, who led the team in targets last week. 3rd best matchup for the Falcons. Eagles side of the ball, it's the A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith show. 5th worst matchup. I don't care. A.J. Brown's a top 10, probably top, I would say 7 or 8 for me this week. Devonta Smith is a low-end 2, high-end 3. Same for Drake London. I think I prefer Drake London just because he's the 1, whereas Smith is obviously the 2. I mean, I guess you could say Pitts could be the 1 in Atlanta, but I think Smith and London have a same outlook here, same range of outlooks. That's why I was lower on London. I thought he was overdrafted. A.J. Brown's the absolute must start. You're probably starting Smith. You're probably starting London. There's not much you can do. They're too highly ranked. Nobody else really here. Ray McLeod, I get it. He led the team in targets. It probably won't happen again. The tight ends, start them both. I think I have Pitts as my tight end 5 or 6. He's start worthy. I like him. I think that this offense gets much better. Dallas Goedert is always on the tight end 1-2 borderline for me. Let me double check the matchups here. Not that they really matter this early on in the season, but 17th best for Pitts. And for Goddard, it is why can I not see Dallas Goedert? For Dallas Goedert, it is the 10th best, so it doesn't really impact him. Start Goddard if you got him. Definitely start Pitts. There's no way I'm sitting Pitts. McLeod or Lazard this week? 1 sec. I just want to check something here. I got to look up Lazard. I want to see something. Lazard, I think you got to start Lazard. I know he's not going to score the 2 touchdowns, but he's an Aaron Rodgers guy, and he was clearly the number 2. Caught 6 for 89, 9 targets, though. I know Ray McLeod was the leading target, but it wasn't anywhere near that impressive last week. He had 4 for 52 on 7 targets. I never thought I'd say this in 2024, but I'm pretty sure Allen Lazard is the obvious start. And had I looked at that, actually, I think Allen Lazard might be a worthwhile flex play across the board. So I may have missed that one. I didn't realize. I watched that game, but it was so damn boring. I did not realize that Lazard was that involved in the offense. But what would you expect with, him being a Rodgers guy? All right, guys, that wraps up my NFC home games preview. Check back tonight. We have tomorrow night we have SC doing his Devi show. Not much going on Saturday, I don't think. And then we're gonna try maybe a mailbag show on Saturday, and then Sunday live at noon for the sit start. Where everyone will be back. I will actually have co-hosts and not just sitting here talking to the voices in my head. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for checking in, Jamie. It's nice to actually have someone to talk to instead of just sitting here talking to myself. See you again Sunday, guys. Take care and enjoy Thursday night football.